Welcome to the last segment of the Fourth Estate, and we've been discussing the arts and sciences. We'll be moving on to discuss a little bit about this controversy surrounding the construction of Mukono Katosi Road. Started in 1996. Now, almost 20 years later, the road hasn't been done, and the first attempt, the president opened the ground, and it is shrouded in controversy. But Melina, you wanted to say something about humanities and sciences.
Yeah, I also wanted to put in a defense of arts and humanities, and I think there's two things I want to say. One is the value of diversity, the value of diversity in the economy generally, and also in society. So of course you can't have a country run by scientists alone, right? By people who have studied science. And in fact, if you look at the leaders of countries around the world, or the leaders of this country, for example, most of them have studied either the humanities and the arts or social sciences. If you look at the president himself, if you look at presidents in the region, most of them have studied social sciences. And if you look at, I started a small exercise in which I was looking at the NRM historicals and what subjects they studied. And I just happened to start with General Eli Tumwine, who happened to study fine arts. He got a degree of arts and fine arts, and I think art history in particular. So just to make the point that you can use these political science.
And what did the prime minister study? He's a lawyer. I think the prime minister is a
so
lawyer.
law is a very common field and a very important one if you're going to go into government, so you know what kind of things you're doing.
But lawyers will ask questions about human rights, so they are bad to presidents.
But I think so. In terms of, so diversity is one thing, and the second thing is the skills you get out of whatever it is you choose to study, and this gets to the quality of education. So if we're thinking about the arts and humanities, these can all provide very important and valuable things to society. If you're talking about who's going to write Uganda's history, who's going to make sure that, for example, all these Runyankore sayings that that the president likes to make, who's going to record them and make sure that they stay as part of culture. These are all things that are important, but there needs to be quality training and quality in whatever subject it is, whether it's philosophy, whether it's ethics, and so on. And I think what the humanities can bring in social sciences is critical thinking, which is the ability to question and to analyze. And this is something that everyone should have, which is why everyone should study not just science or not just the humanities, but both of them, because everyone needs to be able to question, for example, what the president is saying, and ask the question Chris was asking: do we have empirical evidence to suggest that if you study arts, you're less likely to get a job? Are you less likely to contribute to society? Those are the questions that we should be asking when we hear statements like the one we're discussing.
I'm afraid we need to move on to the next subject, because my one take on that statement is,
if you study sciences,
if you look at
we have scientists who are
you look at religious institutions, even our parliament.
Gentlemen, I'm being warned that we will lose time on the next
You
topic.
don't need to defend arts and humanities. They are as important as any natural science.
If the
agree.
president
Charles, allow
believes
me
he
to read
created
for one school. There's a school called Bukeri College Kachonga. You obviously, if you are listening, I think by last year it was even failing to get students for A level, and the population had dropped to almost 150. It used to have 800. Now that's an example of public schools like Manjasi, Tororo College, Muiri, which used to be the lead schools in this country, educating children from peasants and the rich. Today they have been replaced by St. Helena, St. Barnabas, St. Who, St. What, St. This,
St. Chris.
But Chris,
Saint-
what extent is that a problem?
I'm sorry, we need to. I'm sorry, we need to be able to move on.
i.e. the president and just management of schools.
We need to be
when
able
he
to
was
move
in
on.
it, when he was in
I
it,
believe the
why did he go to Intara and not to St. Museveni?
Chris, hold it. Let's move on. Chris, you're the investigations guy on this show. What is the story about Mukono Katosi and the fight amongst the ministers? Now, the latest is that the prime minister is going to reconcile them. He's going to do his job as head prefect, as Professor Nsemambi used to call it.
If he doesn't reconcile them, they will kill each other because they are all thieves. The Katosi is an old story. This is a story of NRM. Every project must be shrouded in controversy involving huge sums of money, taking money for themselves. The cost of public infrastructure in this country has been made so high by the thieves fattened by the government. So there's nothing to this for me.
All are thieves? What do you mean?
Why are they quarreling?
Why are they
We are
quarreling?
talking
That's what
about
I'm
billions
asking.
of money. Money is lost. I
24
can tell you by
billion
the
was
way,
advanced.
if you are talking about roads in this country, that is an area where the president has been very passionate That's the area where money has been going in trillions. That's the money where has been lost in trillions to private gain. I can even tell you, go to UNRWA. Even UNRWA now is in a battle with another oil company, supplying air and taking money in UNRWA there, paying that they are drawing money from Umbale, from Masaka for doing roads. No fuel was delivered. Billions taken. There are reports there, I have them. So to me, allow Bernard, Melina, and the professor to discuss this NRM Katosi Road. Me, I know it is the modus operandi of NRM. Eat and eat from public coffers until you constipate. When they will collapse, I don't know.
Let's talk about the politics of this controversy. Abraham Biandala, former chief engineer of Kampala Capital City Authority, Minister for Works, and the interview he gave to the Observer, and mentioning, they want my job, that's why they are fighting me. They brought people, it is the mafia. Professor, were you surprised by, I mean, what did you make of this interview by the minister?
I was not surprised if you look at the history of this country. In most cases, when people say they're about to be dropped in cabinet, somebody will come up and say, so-and-so needs my job. You remember there were people in security agencies some time back. Every time they thought they were going to be dropped, something would come up. So I'm not surprised by the statements from Engineer Biandala. But having said that, I do think that in this country, maybe there's something we have not looked at carefully, that is institutional audit. Because if you are going to have an institution like Uganda National Roads Authority to handle that kind of money, you have to ensure that actually the systems are okay within the institution. How do you reach the stage of awarding a contract to a fake company?
No, but the minister writes and says, in his own words, and in the confirmed in the interview, he's been warned that this company you're dealing with is undergoing, we are evaluating it. What Bernard is the word that they use to say they're doing due diligence on the company. He says, yes, the company may be, but please go ahead and sign the contract.
But you also know, when you have such a company, those are the companies that lobby most. I'll give an example from institutions. When you are going to, when students apply, and you say, we are still checking your documents, a student with forged documents will be calling every day. And at the end of the day, by the time you get maybe a clarification from the National Council for Education, then actually that student has fake papers. You get it? So when a company is overcalling, it is lobbying through all offices, even using money.
Why wouldn't the minister stand his ground and say, there is a technically competent unit called UNRWA, it is going through due diligence. Once they finish due diligence, I mean, this road was supposed to be done 5 years ago. It wasn't done. Then there was no money. Then it came back on budget. Why the rush to have the road started and get the president to go and commission?
Don't you know how contracts are awarded in most of these organizations?
No, I don't. Bernard.
What do you want me to say? I wrote today saying I think Biandala will keep his job, but he shouldn't keep his job. He's flailing. He's just completely, I think, failed to manage. There's sort of so many vested interests, and he doesn't have this sort of the courage to run the show. You remember that we were talking about UNRWA. He goofed over the whether to renew or not to renew the contract of the former executive, what do they call executive director? The Sebanachita. He had quarreled with the board, then brought back the same board. CAA, the mess, that's all under him. The railway, that's under him. Katosi, and that's the only road, is all under him. It's a total mess, and he's basically, he doesn't have what it takes to run that sort of ministry today. Now, I'll tell you a small anecdote. We once I think on KFM, he came and I was telling him, as KCC chief engineer, you look at this city, and he was like, the reason we can't keep the lights on, the street lights, is because of the uncertainty in power, in the voltage and whatever. How can an engineer tell me this sort of nonsense? You can't stabilize this power, that if there's a high voltage knocks out the power. I thought, for me, that I've never forgotten that. And when he was appointed Minister of Works, I just thought he couldn't do it. But so he finds Ebyaba Gambi, who's actually quite strong, and and a lot of the mafia, because that's where the money is going. So everybody, all the commission agents, all the crooks and criminals are focused there, and he just doesn't know
In
what to
terms
do.
of political strategy.
And that's why he even goes on record and says, you know, I called up the Deputy Attorney General, he told me verbally, and then I put it. How do you conduct government business? If you, he says he's there, he's not part of the thieving gang and whatever, and that's why all these things, you know, he's being fought. But even look at his own conduct. But I must say, for the interview, he named names. I like that.
He named names, but in terms of political strategy, was
credit to him on that
Marina,
point.
would you say that was good political strategy? Because you're dealing with what appears.
I'm not interested whether it was good political
interview
strategy or not.
Showed
I
an
want to know who is
extremely
who.
paranoid and scared engineer Biandala. Because he said, you see, Frank Tumwebaze brought this company. It belongs to him. Then Nasasara wants my job. And then the journalist asks him and says, he doesn't, Nasasara doesn't appoint cabinet. He can't appoint himself. He says, no, you see, if I'm here, he has no chance. If I am not, then he has a chance. In terms of political strategy,
It depends on who the intended audience is of that, that piece.
Nasasara
Yes.
is, of course, a smarter political player than Biandala. What I wanted to inform Bernard is you are looking at the Katosi, it's at 6 billion.
no, it's 165.
That's the road in
Video.
the news. You
Yeah.
know, there's
Let
just
me
so
tell
much
you,
else.
on that railway gauge, I have documents and correspondences, including the president's signatures, including the Chinese 2 companies quarreling. On that railway gauge is going to delay because Ugandan officials are going to take $600 million on top of the cost of building the standard railway gauge. So we're talking about how many, 1.something trillion to be pocketed by individuals in this country. So Katosi Road, that is just for
Pocket
smaller
change.
people. So Biandala's problem is, you know, he doesn't have the craft to deal with politics. And secondly, he's been seen to have been brought to cabinet by Mbabazi. And Mbabazi has had his fair share of problems. I know this is a stage of purging. But I'm not sure whether he's withdrawing or he's coming. If he's to come, who will he come with? So these kind of resources have got a political dimension to it. So corruption in the public
no, Chris,
has
I
politics
don't
involved.
think you just play. It's just plain thieving and stealing. I think that has to be made clear. Well, maybe the politics comes in, but a little bit.
Well, yeah,
of it.
they have
Whether the
written out
Andala is for who and
the
who,
thieving-
nothing stops him from
Bernard,
doing
the
his job.
But
Absolutely
Biandala
not,
alone.
unless he's benefiting
Let me tell you, Bernard.
from all the.
Tell me any
controversies.
clean-hearted NRM cadre who chooses to be clean like Suruma tried, and tell me whether will stay the political realm. Suruma tried, even said, I don't like sell of public enterprises. I want government strong. Suruma is now writing books. That is what only one
is a good
Biandala
thing.
could do.
But Chris,
Listen,
if you have to discuss it,
there's
no.
very
Suruma
Yes.
did not take the stance he took when he was minister.
He did.
He started way back, but he still became a minister.
And-
Whether
and-
you're talking, because Suruma made the point that UCB must not be sold. He had been moved as deputy governor of the central bank to managing director of UCB, and that the problems start there. But
And he had
even before
returned
that, there had been a quarrel, an argument between him on one side, Adam Tebele on the other side. Which direction do we go? Around 1987, going forward. So his issues, he's been quite consistent to his credit.
In other
So
words,
it's
we're
not
in
that
agreement.
it's not that, but you're trying sort of to say that because when he was a minister, he took these positions, but he's been consistent. But he
consistent.
still
The
became a
reason-
minister,
I'm saying
even given the position he had
Yes,
been taking.
he
all
was
throughout.
consistent, but the reason for failing to retain the position of Minister of Finance was taking that policy position of his, which was contrary to the
He
political
hasn't been
interest.
the only minister of finance.
So
Others
what-
have come and
so
gone.
what we're agreeing here is, if we are looking for leaders with greed and village greed like that of village hunters, their home is Uganda. Simple as that. That's my analysis. So we are not going to discuss today's Katosi. If you follow the paper trail of the standard railway gauge, Bernard, you will ask America to give you a visa and go away. You will get annoyed.
You know,
My visa is still valid until
I
until
have seen
December,
people
so I
we
might
call
just use it.
vocal, we call innocent being appointed into cabinet, and when they get into cabinet, they keep quiet. I would like to wish for a day when nobody would be appointed.
For what? My work
And
is
then
here.
I see.
My work is here. And I'm doing it a better job here.
Chris, let me put the same question to you.
You bring it.
In terms of political strategy, how did Biandala play his cards, especially with this interview? Because people said when Gilbert Bukenya played the mafia card, he survived in cabinet as vice president for another 6 years.
First of all, Biandala is a political novice. I think he was brought up trying to fight people who have mastered the politics. He's throwing Tumwebaze here. Tumwebaze is not too mature in NRM politics to even hit a deal of that magnitude without fearing for his job. That one, we know that. When you go for Nasasira, you see, it is basically Biandala failing to step in the shoes of Nasasira in the Minister of Works. Nasasira was much more maligned when he was the Minister of Works. Every theft in this country was Nasasira. But since he left the Minister of Works, in fact, the theft has gone beyond, to the extent, Bernard, you edited the story I brought to you about paying fake suppliers in that ministry. Long after Nasasira had gone. These guys maligned Nasasira, they got the job, they are not failing to do anything different from Nasasira. That's all. And he thinks...
I thought someone said Biandala has actually done more acreage of road, more kilometers of road since he got into that.
When money was being provided for that, UNRWA is just doing those roads.
It's like building on Nasasira successes.
No, let me make one comment. You see, when I look at the interview by Honorable Biandala, I think he made a very big blunder. You know, when you're a full cabinet minister, you don't go to a newspaper and accuse your colleagues. You have where to go. You know, you cannot just come out in the open and start saying, no, when you don't have, you want to tell you, when you are happy.
Yes, he named the people.
You even provided the evidence.
And that is why he has to pay the price.
Yeah.
So when you come out to speak with authority. The point is, by the way, Biandala was building on Nasasira's work. He built some institutional framework in that place, even setting up UNRWA. That was Nasasira's work. So instead of doing something peculiar to what Nasasira has done, or even improve, Biandala has an engineer, has been gambling throughout. And you know he has this arrogance, him as a person as well. So when you go on and throw in Tumwebaze, throw in Nasasira, these are seasoned...
And other private players, by the way. He named other people.
These are seasoned politicians in this country. Nasasira has been hammered over and over. And he knows how to go about his politics.
He's developed some thick skin.
In fact, the Biandalas, who on assumption that because Nasasira was there with a lot of money, they wanted the docket. They have gone to the docket. It's proving it difficult to make money. And if you try to make it, you get into trouble. So they are trying to wash their troubles on Nasasira.
Bernard, I was remembering the president in Entebbe telling Biandala that the monitor wrote and said you're a minister for, you are in charge of potholes when you are chief engineer for KCC. Now I have given you the ministry, and they were wondering how you succeed. I don't know if someone had
asked Biandala, myself on radio, I think, which road did you do in KCC as an engineer? He named the road, that one, Chamu Towers, from Kampala Road crossing to Nasa Road. That's what he worked on.
But more broadly, I think much of the public sector corruption in Uganda, about, I think, World Bank estimates about 75–80% in the region is from procurement on big things like this. And if you listen to President Kenyatta yesterday, he was saying, you know, we're trying to move real quick on big infrastructure projects, but we're finding problems, delays, and cost overruns because our own officers are eating money. It's corruption, it's bribery, and it again, just to bring in a regional context, because that Standard Railway is part of, you know, we all know what's part of the Northern Corridor projects. And so, again, what kind of country do you want to be? What do you need to do to get there? Here we are. We seem to have an idea, but we have no idea how to get there.
We have the idea. Get the wrong fellows in the politics.
But I think the other time,
gentlemen and lady, I think our time is up. We need to be getting out. We need to be getting out of here, and the debate will continue on some of these and other issues. Waiting to see how the president reacts and whether the much talked about cabinet reshuffle finally comes around, and how people wriggle out.
And how many scientists there will be there.
How many scientists will be in the next cabinet?
And you know, it is the Biandala scientist who's messing up the road, not an artist. And also, if the president is clean, he must come out with the clean hands and whip the people.
So UNRWA should also be strengthened.
No, I said before that if the president believes his coming into power in 1986 was actually the fundamental change that he promised, then he's wrong about his science-arts debate. If he thinks he hasn't caused much change, then he's right about the divide between science and artists.
Because early to me did define it.
Our time is out.
AK-47.
Our time is out.
So
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bernard. Thank you very much, Melina. Thank you very much, Chris.
His bullet went out prematurely, so he almost jeopardized the entire operation of the 6th of
Thank you very much to you all, our viewers, for joining us live. Join us again next Sunday for another exciting discussion right here.
We would have
on The
shot
Fourth
when
Estate.
he was
Have a good night.
due to shoot.